Now, actually, in a turning point, the election and everything, the 5th August, the authoritarian regime, Sheikh Hasina fled Bangladesh. So, what is your observation after 10 years, 10, 11 years about Bangladesh today? Honestly, what you see a country moving forward or a country stuck in the same political trap? What is your observation about Bangladesh?
Well, that's the key question. This is a real tipping point in the history of Bangladesh, a juncture, and which path Bangladesh pursues after these elections will determine the country's future. We've Historic things have happened. I have to be perfectly frank. I always thought I will live long enough to see when the people of Bangladesh pull down the statues to the previous regime. But I never dreamt it would happen so soon. I didn't see that coming. Nor did I think change would be perpetrated by young people, students, and their supporters. And in a way that sets the stage for possibly very effective and free and fair elections. Now think of these students, Kanak. I mean, you and I have been around a while, and when there are revolutions elsewhere, those who carry out the revolution, they grab the power for themselves. Yeah, for better or worse, usually for worse. But what do the students and the young people do? No, they realize, hey, this might be beyond our capabilities. Let's get someone here who can actually lead a transition process. And who do they pick? They pick the very best guy. The very best guy, Professor Yunus. We all know Mohammed Yunus. Wow. So that's why I think this is such an exciting time in the history of Bangladesh, a country that's near and dear to you and me both. And like you pointed out, in just a couple days, the people will speak.
Yeah, so actually, this is not only a general election. This election actually is also about changing the system, about reforming the constitution, about fixing the balance of power, and many more things. Election and the referendum, yes, no vote will be in the same day. So, what is the expectation from your experience about Bangladesh? What do you see?
Well, in my engagement with Bangladesh, there is no precedent for a referendum like the people are going to vote on in just a couple of days. This referendum is critically important because the people will speak. Are they happy with the system as it has been? And I'll be honest, that has led to ineffective governance. Or do they want to change the system? Do they want to change the parliamentary structure? Do they want to change the balance of power between the prime minister and the president? And there are a number of other issues. So the people will speak. How they speak is up to them, and you and I will know in just a couple days. But if they convey that they want to reform the system, change the system, strengthen the system, so the country is less threatened by the rise of authoritarianism, then a second question arises. Because, okay, the people speak. They say, we want change, we want reform, but will the new government of the day move to effect that change, that reform? That's an open question. And you and I were sitting here, we're talking to each other very nicely, but neither of us knows what the new government will do in terms of effecting that change. And I think very strongly the government must undertake with dispatch without delay to formulate concrete changes that implement the wishes of the people as conveyed in the referendum and move to make those reforms, those changes, reality. That's a big ask.
Yeah.
But that new government cannot ignore what the people say.
But I think the government will be in pressure. New government will be in pressure because they see the August July uprising, people's uprising and their protest. So they will not. This will create some pressure on new government, I believe. But then
Well,
Mozena,
let me comment
yeah,
on that. I agree it will create some pressure, but also don't forget that some of the uh, of those portending for power, or running for power, sort of like the old ways.
right.
They benefited from the old ways. And so there will be also pressure not to affect change, but sort of repeat the old ways. And I hope that doesn't happen. But I'm just trying to be a realist.
Yeah, before the election, actually, you also observing some things like they already against a few reforms. A few political leaders are against the yes vote, ha vote, the referendum. So I think let's see what happened on 12th February. But we
Yeah.
see BNP and Jamaat coming back into the center of the politics. At the same time, the Washington Post says U.S. leading toward engaging with Jamaat. Okay, I just wanted to show you the newspaper clip where yeah, newspaper. They said U.S. seeks to be friends with Bangladesh's once banned Islamic party, that is Jamaat-e-Islam, and this was leaked from a leaked audio conversation between U.S. embassy officials and Bangladeshi journalists. So let me ask you directly. Actually, in the U.S. is more concerned about who wins or just about managing the situation in South Asia, or what is the position of U.S. according to this Washington Post report? What do you think as a former ambassador?
Well, I need to clarify, and probably should have done at the very outset, that I am no longer an employee of the U.S. government. I have, in fact, retired. And so I
Yeah,
do not speak for the U.S. government. I have no special insight into the thinking inside the U.S. government. And so my views are my own. So I am very free to
yeah, yeah. No,
speak my own thoughts,
that actually,
and I will share openly my thoughts. But
yeah,
please, I hope none of your viewers is confused to think that I speak in any way for the U.S. government, because
mhm,
I do
mhm.
not. But I will say this in regard to your question. Uh, I think it's important that the U.S. government will do what it does. I'm just sharing my views,
Yeah,
my hopes, and that is that we will engage uh, transparently, constructively, effectively with whomever emerges victorious in the February 12 election. Bangladesh, as you and I know, it's the eighth largest country in the world in terms of population. It cannot be ignored. It's a major country, and we need to engage fully with that country. And so that would be my hope.
you observed Bangladesh and Bangladesh politics very closely. One of my foreign ministry friend said Dan was one of the most brilliant U.S. ambassador to Bangladesh. So, so that's why I asked you today.
Well, I don't know anything about that. I do know this. I love that country, and I love the people of Bangladesh. I
So,
make no bones about it. Uh,
so yeah. So then, when you are in the chair, like as an working as an ambassador, that time actually Awami League turn into authoritarian direction. So my question is very simple. Why? What went wrong, actually, and why did relations between the Hasina's government and US become so bad at that time? Because they sometimes the bullied against you as a sitting US ambassador, the bully against you. So, what is your observation? Why Awami League go this way, and what is the relation that time actually?
Well, that's an issue that others have spoken to as well. Power is like a disease, and once you experience and taste power, it just sort of, for many people, it becomes incorporated into your being, and you become absorbed with it. All you want is more power. And I think this is what we saw manifest during Sheikh Hasina's time. She became so focused on sustaining power for herself and her party that everything else was a subordinate pursuit. And we see that in countries around the world, and I won't mention them because it's probably not appropriate for me, but it's obvious. And I will say this, I see a rising threat of that same phenomenon in my own country, here in America. This is a threat to us. So one should not be surprised that this authoritarianism, this streak of pursuit of power, took root in Bangladesh, and it became quite a force. Uh, it, like I said earlier in our comments, I was always confident the people of Bangladesh would not live with it forever. I never expected they'd get rid of it so quickly, this authoritarianism, but they did. And now is a time for the people to set the stage for a new Bangladesh, one that is less inclined to go down that same authoritarian path. And it's not only Sheikh Hasina who went down that path. We've seen that in other Bangladeshi leaders. And maybe new structures would help avoid that path. You asked a question about the former Prime Minister Hasina and her views vis-a-vis the U.S. government and against the representatives of the U.S. government, people like me. Well, I think she just got really tired of us because we believe in respect for human rights. We believe in free and fair and open and participatory elections. I was there during the one of the elections, and I worked hard to promote respect for that process. I even went to Delhi and tried to urge the Indians to promote the democratic process. I don't think she appreciated that a whole lot. But I tell you this, I know she wasn't crazy about me, and she would never give me an audience just one-on-one, and I never had a farewell call or anything like that. But on the other hand, she enabled me to do something that is incredible, to visit all 64 districts of Bangladesh. I could never have done that without her full support. And all she had to do was pick up the phone and say, okay, that's the end of Mozena running around. Okay, then it's over. She never did that. She supported those trips, laid on security, made government guest houses available. And when I went to her home district of Gopalganj, she sent a family member with me to show me all of the sites to see in that district. So I don't know, a bit of a mixed message, but I think the bottom line, she wasn't too crazy about me. In a sense, I benefited because I used my since she locked me out. I used that time to travel all over Bangladesh, And I always had good relations with her ministers, which I always thought was a bit strange, but I did. I think of our work with the health ministry, the defense ministry, all of these agriculture ministry. Oh, we had active, ongoing programs, and the ministers would always receive me. I can't recall anyone saying, "Oh, I don't think I'll see the U.S. ambassador because Hasina's not too happy with him." No, I had access, and we worked together constructively. So it was always a little bit hard to understand. I don't worry about it. I think about the wonderful people of Bangladesh. That's what I think about.
Okay, so but yeah, we observed many things that time because at that time I was in Bangladesh, so I observed very closely their attitude, support, their criticism against the US and EU, especially. So, but just on 5th August, Sheikh Hasina fled and Yunus administration came in, and you praised Dr. Yunus in your opening remarks. So, but people say government is not following the spirit of the mass uprising, and government is very slow, playing too safe. Uh, Actually, does it look like real change or the crisis management?
Oh,
The uprising after uprising, Doctor people believes in Doctor Yunus that he will play a very vital role to change many things, but now we see he just managed the crisis. He's just playing very safe.
well, first of all, uh, tremendous changes in the offing in Bangladesh, and Muhammad Yunus gets great credit for it. But just imagine, there's Muhammad Yunus going about doing. He's got a lot of work going on, not only in Bangladesh but around the world. And he gets a phone call from a group of revolutionaries saying, "Hey, Dr. Yunus, we need you to come in and run the transition process." What? Where does this come from? And where's the playbook that telling me everything what to do? There isn't one. And Muhammad Yunus, I said earlier he was the perfect choice, and he really was the perfect choice, because there is no playbook. You have to use your own instincts, your own integrity, your own creativity, your own intellect. Uh, to try to forge a path. There's no path through the forest. You have to make the path. You have to cut the path. You have to create the path. Uh, and he did that. Did he do it perfectly? Oh, I'm sure not. And there will always be people saying, "Oh, you should have done this, should have done that." All of that's fine. You know, I've been in leadership positions. You do the best you can. You keep your eye on the prize. You got to know what the prize is, and you keep your eye on the prize, and you keep working toward it. And that's what Yunus has done. And
Look,
I applaud him.
yeah, then I agreed with you in few points, but actually people's uh, belief on him, people's belief was he will start some real change. Not all change, but few changes people's want from Dr. Yunus and his government. But unfortunately, this government is just like a crisis management government, and they are very slow and playing very safe. So
Oh yeah, wait a second. Wait a second. Kanak, you can't say that. It's just a crisis management government.
yeah,
What? What to manage the crisis of 180 million people having their government stood upside down?
yeah.
That's beyond a crisis. I don't know what the
Now,
next
from
word
that
is.
point of view, okay,
You got
that's
to give him
okay.
credit for it. You can't expect he's going to pull the country through all of this upheaval and at the same time come out with a whole 500 pages of reforms. There are limits to what
Now,
one
from,
can
from that
reasonably
point of
expect.
view, sir, that is okay. They did the crisis management very well, but actually, after the uprising, the people's actually demand or people's desire, the faith they put on Dr. Yunus, this is actually one sort of actually they're very much upset now. So okay, let's move to the another point. Mr. Tariq Rahman is now chairman of the BNP. He was persecuted, severely injured by the army-backed 111 government, and he lived in exile near 17 years. How do you really see him today? BNP under his leadership will do politics better than before, or what is your observation about new chairman of the BNP, Mr. Tariq Rahman?
Well, first of all, I have to say I don't have any personal relationship with him. As you know, he was outside of the country throughout the whole time that I was there as ambassador. I can only say this. I hope he has learned some critical questions by examining what happened to the all-powerful Hasina regime. It collapsed. It collapsed in 5 weeks. And all those statues and things we talked about all pulled down. Now, why did that happen? Because she slid down the slope of authoritarianism. She forgot what democracy is. She forgot that her job is to fulfill the democratic process, enable the people of Bangladesh to express their preferences. What do they want? Where do they want the country to go? She forgot that. And I hope that Tariq Rahman, who is among those who might end up in the big chair, I hope he doesn't forget those lessons. I hope, all you have to do is look at Bangladeshi history since 1971, and you will see how leaders succumb to the intoxication of power. We talked about that already, but power. And so the thing on Tariq Rahman and other political leaders, not just Tariq Rahman, is to resist that temptation and never forget you work for the people of Bangladesh, period. That's the end of that sentence, period. You work for the people of Bangladesh and enable them to express their views, listen to their views, and follow their preferences, and help them build the new Bangladesh, the peaceful, secure, prosperous, healthy, democratic Bangladesh. That's what the people of Bangladesh want. And whoever the next leader is, his or her job is to help that become reality.
Yeah, this is very important. Yeah, and Jamaat-e-Islami Bangladesh is a very important political party now because Jamaat supporters believe they will form the government. BNP supporters believe BNP will form the government. There will be a very tense situation in Bangladesh. As an ambassador, you meet up Jamaat leaders and studied this party. What is your observation as an ambassador about Jamaat-e-Islami Bangladesh? And what do you think about them, actually? I wanted to know your views about
Well, I did know and befriended leaders of Jamaat, and whoever, if Jamaat and its partners wins the election, good for them. If BNP and its partners win the elections, good for them. Or if somebody else prevails somehow, good for them. But they can't forget what I just finished saying is who are you working for? You're not working for yourself to put money in your back pocket to grab power for yourself and your family and your party. No, you're not. You're working for the people of Bangladesh. And that applies to Jamaat as well. And they have their own agenda, which is their business. But at the end of the day, they work for the people of Bangladesh. And I hope they don't forget that, because if they do forget it, then they have to reflect on what happened to the all-powerful Sheikh Hasina regime and earlier authoritarian regime. They were all powerful until they weren't.
Right.
Because, I told you before, I really respect and admire the people of Bangladesh, and they're not going to put up with this. And they won't put it up with the next government either. They just won't accept it. It's a very sophisticated electorate. I've worked in many countries around the world, but the people of Bangladesh, they are extraordinary. And so my warning to whoever it is who sits in that big chair next, don't forget who you are working for, because they're going to hold you accountable. And it might not happen in a few days or a few weeks or a few months, even a few years. But at the end of the day, you will be held accountable.
Yeah, accountability is the main issue and main point for the next government, because they already see how Sheikh Hasina fled the country, the people's uprising, mass uprising. So actually, I wanted to know. You see the Jamaat leaders several times. You meet with them. You have a meeting with Jamaat leaders. So, what is your observation about Jamaat as a political force in Bangladesh today? Because before the election, there is a few important points like their role in 1971, especially BNP claims uh, pointed out this issue in front, and also in some point the Islamic. Some people believe that in the Washington Post report, also the U.S. representative said mentioned that if Jamaat imposed Sharia law, then U.S. will impose 100% uh, tariff on garments product. So, is there an observation, your observation about if Jamaat forms the government, or then is there any negative impact from the Western world to Bangladesh, or what will be the world uh, reaction?
Well, first of all, I must observe that I served as a U.S. diplomat for 38 years, including a couple times as a U.S. ambassador in different countries, including Bangladesh.
Yes.
Uh, and along the way, you learn some things. And one of the lessons I learned is not to pay too much attention to these secret reports from anonymous people saying this or that. I actually, in the Washington Post, that article, and of course I respect the Washington Post greatly, but I don't pay too much attention to that. I think. I think at the end of the day, it's not useful to do a bunch of speculation based on anonymous reports. I think it's better to look at what's happening on the ground. And what I see is political parties, to their credit, are trying to reach out to middle ground, not fueling the extremist elements in their party, but trying to reach out to centrist people. And I think it's having some impact. I think Jamaat is trying to take a more balanced approach. I think another BNP maybe is trying to reach out to former Awami League supporters. I don't know to what extent that's been working. But those are worthy efforts to broaden the base. And I applaud those efforts, and to avoid going down extremist paths.
Yeah. And yeah, Bangladesh political parties is not the main stakes. There is also the military role in our politics. Bangladesh army has played a big role in politics before. The role reduced in 1990 when President Ershad stepped down, then came back in the name of 111, and again in the time of mass uprising, and the military role is very significant to topple Sheikh Hasina. And in this Yunus regime, they are the player behind the screen, very strong player behind the screen. So, what is the real danger if the military becomes too powerful in politics? And second thing, uh, from your Bangladesh experience, what concrete steps are needed to keep the army in the barracks and the politics in the parliament?
Well, as you were suggesting, the military has throughout Bangladesh's history been involved, sometimes more deeply than other times, but always involved. And I'll be honest, usually it's not been for the better. And we could sit here and spend a long time talking about the negative impact of some of those military engagements. One always hopes the military has learned lessons. When we look at last August, July, August of 2024, you saw that the military made an effort, a successful effort, to restrain itself and not start shooting its own people. I mean that suggests lessons were learned. I think it behooves whatever government emerges after these elections to engage with the military, reach out to them, respect them as an important institution of the country, and give them avenues to express their views as Bangladeshi citizens, but also don't encourage them or give them rationale to go beyond their mandate. They need to stay in the barracks. That's where they belong. They have a legitimate role in providing security for the country of Bangladesh, but governing the country is not part of it. And they need to be encouraged to stay in their lane. So that would be a major task. And I'm encouraged by the tendency of the military in 2024 during those historic times of revolution on the streets of the country, that they restrained themselves against the wishes of the government of that time.
Yeah. This time, maybe we will rebuild our army newly with new government, with new approach, with new decisions. I hope so.
Well, rebuilding the army, one is always rebuilding your security forces, your military forces, and the goal is to seek that the members of the force and the leadership of the force are apolitical, that they realize their role is to provide the nation's security, that they realize that they are subordinate to the civilian authority. And so when you're rebuilding these institutions, I think part of the criteria as you do so is to strengthen the commitment of the leaders and the members to civilian rule and to staying neutral,
Yeah.
and staying out of it. And other countries have worked very hard to that end. It is not easy to do, but I think the Bangladeshis can pull this off. Why not?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course we can. And another important issue in our politics is Indian influence. India supported Sheikh Hasina's government very blindly, and that time Bangladesh is treated not as a sovereign country, like an Indian state. So, actually, what is your observation about Indian influence on Bangladesh, and maybe in 2014 election? In that time, maybe you visited India, Bangladesh for the negotiation, for some try to minimize the situation. So can we know actually about that time, the 2014 election time and Indian influences? What is your observation? How can we resolve this pressure, unethical pressure by India?
Well, my belief, just reflecting back on the 2014 elections, is that the political process of Bangladesh is the business of the people, the Bangladeshi people. And the challenge is to build and effectuate an effective democratic process. So Bangladesh didn't need then and doesn't need now outsiders to tip the scales of the election process in Bangladesh. So it's okay for outsiders to support the democratic process. It's not okay for outsiders to put their finger on the scale and support one party over another. And one might argue that some of these chickens have come home to roost for the Indians, but I lived in India for 3 years. Oh my goodness, they will sort this out. They understand India needs and will want good, constructive, cordial relations with the government that emerges after the February 12th elections. They see that, and they will make that happen because that's in the interest of India. In every country, I've said in our earlier chats that every country, the job is to promote its interests, and India will promote its interests by having good relations with whatever the government is that emerges after February 12th.
Yeah, but actually, last 15, 16 years, Hasina regime, Bangladeshi people are very annoyed on India because of their behavior, because of their support. They're very angry. People's to people's relationship, I thought, actually, we want a good neighbor, not good boss. We want a good friend neighbor, not boss neighbor. So this is the problem. I hope India will uh, already learn some mm, message or get some message from the uprising and the opposition. And and then, how do you see Sheikh Hasina's political future now? And what do you think lies ahead for her party?
Well, I have no special insight into what Sheikh Hasina is thinking and planning, so I don't know. But I do know that the challenge for the political process in Bangladesh is to figure out a way to bring former supporters of the Awami League, and these are millions of people. I'm not talking about those senior leaders who perpetrated atrocities against Bangladeshi people. They need to be held accountable.
Yeah,
And I mentioned one time about the Truth and Reconciliation process that Nelson Mandela implemented in South Africa when the country transitioned from apartheid to democracy. So maybe some version of that. And that would be affecting leaders and holding them accountable. But in addition, you have millions and millions of supporters who did not commit atrocities against anybody. Now, what about them? And they need to be brought into the political process. I'm not sure how to do that. If there's some kind of new party emerges, some kind of different kind of Awami League emerges, or if somehow these people find homes in existing parties, I have no idea on that. But it has to happen. They cannot be outside the political tent. They must be inside the political tent and part of the process. And that will be a huge challenge for the new government. It's a challenge they can deal with. It will take creativity and courage
yeah,
to make that happen. But it has to happen. I'm telling you that it has to happen.
But
You have to have all the people must have access to the political process.
problem is, and then the problem is, the Sheikh Hasina now, she is in the Indian shelter. She lives in India, and from India, over the telephone call, over the meeting, she always threatened Bangladeshi people who participate in the mass uprising, who are against Sheikh Hasina. Uh, she always threatened. She continuous. She never say we are sorry. We did mistakes. We apologize for that. We will not do it again. We are very sorry. We are misguided. She never actually bow down. Actually, so in this situation, people will not accept Awami supporters in Bangladeshi politics very warmly. So, what do you think?
Well, I think the ship of state in Bangladesh has sailed. New processes are emerging. And in just a couple of days, there will be this election, out of which will come a verdict on a referendum of political reform. So a new Bangladesh is emerging now. Representatives of the old Bangladesh, I think they're sort of standing on the dock, shouting and screaming, but the ship has sailed. And they're not on that ship. I'm talking about the Awami League leaders. And that ship has sailed into a new and exciting future. And like I said, a future that I hope leads to the new Bangladesh that I used to speak about so much. And I believe that a way needs to be found to bring former Awami League supporters into the political process. And maybe there'll be a new party that will be emerging to accommodate them. But something has to happen with them. They cannot be left behind on the shore. They're not on the shore. They're on the ship. They want to be part of the new Bangladesh. Like I said, it will take courage and creativity to find out how to bring them into the process of building the new Bangladesh.
Yeah, let's hope for the best for everything, the good election, the good referendum result. We hope that will be positive. Yes. And uh, let's hope for the best. Ambassador Dan Mozena, thank you for your patience and answering all the questions. Thank you again.
You're very welcome,
Yeah.
and I join you in hoping for the best, because I have a lot of faith in the people of Bangladesh, and I think at the end of the day they're going to get this right, and the revolution that started July and August of 24, I think is going to eventually, it's going to be with hiccups. It's not going to be smooth and everything easy, but I think it will lead to the new Bangladesh, which will take the country to even greater heights.
But
Well, you see that strength already on the economic side, but we need to see it on the human rights side, where there's full respect for the citizens' human rights. We need to see it on the political side, especially within political parties. Political parties need to democratize. Leaders should not be self-appointed. Oh, I'm the leader. Well, no, the members choose the leader. So then, in a real sense, there needs to be democracy within the party. So these are challenges, but I'll vote with the people of Bangladesh.
yeah, already we see some changes in the political leaders' behavior, their speeches, and many
Yeah.
more people actually expressions. So we are hoping for the best. Actually, thank you, Tina. Thank you again for your
Okay.
joining
Yeah.
and
Thank
valuable
you, Kanak.
time. And
Take care.
I hope and wish you will join me in near future in many issues related with Bangladesh and world politics. Thank you very much,
Sure.
sir.
Yeah. Okay. Take care. All the best.
Thank
Goodbye.
you, sir. Bye.